But see, money. Let's get into some positivity here. Look, we already know what's happening for Xbox in 2025. And I've said this before, and maybe I'm going to be a little slanderous here, and I don't care. PlayStation gamers, if you're listening, if you're here, you are welcome. But I'm going to make a statement that's incredibly true. Do not look to PlayStation for your games this year because you're going to be disappointed. Yes, Ghost of Yotai is coming, and it's going to be dope, and I cannot wait to get into it. Yes, Death Stranding 2 is supposed to be released, and hopefully that it is, but that's no longer a multiplat. That is, no longer an exclusive. It's a multiplat. That's about all you're getting from PlayStation. The biggest games coming out in 2025 for your PlayStation 5 are Xbox-owned IP, and that's incredible.
Facts.
Again, just look at it. Call of Duty, you bought it the most. You literally are paying for the next Call of Duty game. Thank you, PlayStation gamers. Doom Eternal, you're going to buy, right? It's going to be great. I'm sure the Oblivion
Doom the
remake,
Dark Ages.
Yeah, Doom the Dark Ages. Yes, I said Doom Eternal. Doom the Dark Ages is going to be on your console. You're going to buy it up. You're going to lap it up. It's going to be great. It's going to be an incredible game. Graphically, it's going to be amazing. You're buying that game. You're also probably going to buy the Oblivion remake because I believe that's going to be everywhere because that was everywhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if they release that on every console. Thank you again. Keep paying for every. And you got to remember this, folks. And this is not being slanderous. Every game a PlayStation gamer purchases from Xbox to play on their console, they are literally funding the next acquisition, which could be Take-Two. Thank you, PlayStation gamers. Hats off to you. Hopefully you had a great 2025. There you go. So look, I know we're just being silly now. At this point, let's get real. The Xbox Developers Direct is supposedly, see money, happening in third weekend of 2025. That is the opening salvo for what was one hell of a 2024. And Xbox closed it out with two monstrosity exclusives. Whether you played them, whether you like them, whether they're too hard for you, like Stalker 2, too difficult for me. It is a PC-ass PC game. It's great. It's just not for Boom, and that's perfectly fine. Which for a lot of people are enjoying it. And again, we did support the devs. If you're wondering, did you support the devs? Mrs. Boom and I gave away 15 copies that we purchased at full boat. So yes, we did support the dev in a big way, but the game is just not for
awesome.
me. I mean, listen, we said we were going to do it, and we were trying to help. We're a mom and pop organization trying to help out a mom and pop type of organization, and we didn't even ask for them help. I don't even think they know. We've never reached out to them to let them know we were doing it because we didn't need to. We're just trying to help a small dev out. It's fine. But see, coming off of an incredible 2024 where you had Indiana Jones in December, you had Stalker 2, you had Hellblade, you had a ton, a Flight Simulator, you had all the RTS games, you had an incredible year for Game Pass and third party, second party indies. We're rolling into 2025, and we already know that the roadmap for this year is the most first party Xbox has ever put out that wasn't a launch year. Like they literally have so many first party games that I don't even know when I'm going to have time to play them. More importantly, a good portion of those games are going to be released on consoles other than Xbox, PlayStation, potentially Switch, and of course PC. And they're going to be making money hand over fist. Not that that means anything to me because I'm not getting any money out of it, but what that ultimately does is every time PlayStation gamers and PC gamers and Switch gamers buy something that's owned by Microsoft, it's more things that are going to be funded and put into Xbox Game Pass, and that's where we win, right? We win as gamers, but more importantly, we win as consumers because they keep, and again, we're not talking about it. I'm waiting on some confirmation. Apparently, January is going to be a monster month for Xbox Game Pass. It's supposed to have incredible amounts of titles. I can't wait to get the full list. I'm waiting on that right now. See money. let's talk this Xbox Developers Direct that has been a standard the last couple of years. And look, I mean, again, I don't know for sure, but the one thing I will say is Compulsion Games has been putting out a lot of gameplay of
They
South of
have.
Midnight, and every time you see it, it looks better and better and better. Could that be a stealth drop? Could that be announced there? Hey, folks, go play it. I mean, it's possible, but what are we going to see there? Well, we've already seen Avowed, right? We've already seen South of Midnight. What else could be there? Well, one of the rumors that were floating around is that we were going to get a monster-sized gameplay snippet of Doom: The Dark Ages. Comes out. That's a rumored to be out in potentially May or June. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that would be pretty dope. The excitement for Xbox this year is already at a fever's pitch, and we're only into the second day of the year. See, money. I think we're going to be eating good in the neighborhood. Let's get your thoughts and your theories of what could be happening third week into January with the Xbox Developer Direct 2025.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I'm super pumped for this year. And I mean, I think the most exciting part of that statement for me is that it's probably going to be the same thing I say every year going forward, because there's no slowing down
Yes.
what has started, right? Like this is go time. We're no longer, I know there was a past time where we were waiting, right? Like the year Starfield came out, we thought that that was going to be a year that there'll be a bunch of games, and they had a great year that year, but you know, it was really just Starfield as the big hitter, right?
Yep.
And then, you know, this past year was a phenomenal year, but it was more in line with the traditional, you know, back half loaded, front half not loaded, right? As far as first party is concerned. We had an amazing 20. I love 2024. Hellblade 2, one of my favorite games ever. Indiana Jones had managed to beat that and become my game of the year, which is wild. And there was just so many great games released this year that were not even just part of the normal types of games that we would play. Like Age of Mythology was phenomenal. Our History Untold was phenomenal. I mean, there's so many games that released that were so good. But again, that all, aside from Hellblade, that all took place on the back half of the year. And now this year and going forward, you can see that now is the time,
Yeah.
right? Now is the time where the cadence is what we have expected it to be after all these purchases and after all these studios that are part of Xbox. And you know, they're literally not they're literally not slowing down. Like we had December was indie. Looks like, you know, February we know for sure Avowed is coming out. We have, you know, rumors that I know you said possibly you know, you never know if they shadow drop like a South of Midnight, but South of Midnight is rumored for like that April time
April
frame,
release.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then Doom Dark Ages can be like May, June, right? So like we're already seeing an idea of a a 2 month cadence at this point, you know, going out from you know the December, right, to February to April to June, right? Like you're at a 2 month cadence, and we still have the back half of the month, I mean of the
Yep.
year, with your Fable, what was the other one, Outer Worlds 2, you have Call of Duty. Like there's just like
Avowed.
next year is just yeah, I mean just next year is just stacked. It's just stacked beyond belief. So I'm very, very, very excited for this year coming up. It's looks amazing. So the showcase, though, and I call it a showcase now because as much as it's a direct, for us, it's such a big deal. Like they're showing you such high quality games at these things now that it's, you know, they're calling them a direct, but there are January showcase, right? And like you said, going into it, if you go before November, I would have thought that showcase was going to have, South of Midnight, was going to have Avowed, right? But they have done something that they never have done before, which is almost like preemptively they gave us those deep dives, right? We already got the Avowed deep dive. We got the South of Midnight deep dive, right? And it's like, well, I don't see how it would make sense to give us a deep dive in November and then come back in January to do the same thing, right? Obviously,
That's a phenomenal point, and that's exactly why I don't think it's going to be there.
yeah, like I can't see it. Will they just give us like an announcement of release dates if they wanted to? Sure. Do they need to do it at a direct? No, they can give us an announcement of a release date at any time. But I feel like this opens it up, right? Now, one of the games and it's funny because we didn't know about this come December, right? Before December, we didn't know. So, but we did know about the fact that South of Midnight and Naval was already, given his deep dive. So, on point, we speculated the idea of, okay, well, then that means they're not going to be there. So that means they must have something new,
Yes.
something exciting. Well, I mean, we know they do, right? Outer Worlds 2 is going to come out next year. The question, though, is it a latter half of the year game? And if it is, are you going to do a deep dive in January for it?
I say no. I think that bookend, because you think about it, Avowed is, again, we know Avowed is February. That's a monster sized RPG, right?
Facts.
That's a big one. It really would be, I hate to use the word hindrance, if it would come out within the next, a 6 month, maybe 4 months would be a hindrance. I think, like, what I would do, and what do I know? I'm just a knucklehead podcaster, but it makes sense that you take Avowed. It comes out and we already know what's coming out. It's going to be out in February. You bookend the year with that, but then again, you start to run into, then when does Fable come out? Now, remember, December was, of course, Indiana Jones. Hargeet still to this day hates the fact that it came out, and he's not wrong. Like, and I'm not saying this for console war rhetoric. I'm saying it for like honesty of someone to put over 50 hours into Indiana Jones. If that game would have been at the Game Awards and would have been it would have showed up in almost every category the same way Astrobot would have, and it would have taken Astrobot's lunch, because it's honestly a better game in every way, shape, or form. Graphically, story, the design, the levels, everything about Indiana Jones, it would have wiped the floor with pretty much everything that was getting awards. Troy Baker would have won the Voice Award. There's no doubt about it. I don't know so much about the motion capture, because obviously that's a different category. But listen, it would have won almost all the awards. It was, whatever category it was in, it would have won. And now we get into an issue, and I know we the running joke for many years, and he just stepped away for a hot second, so he'll be back here momentarily, has been Xbox has no games, right? Like, and listen, to be fair, there was some righteous criticism with that they only had a handful of studios. They made some big changes. Now we're at a point where Xbox has too many games, and this year is a perfect example of that. I mean, again, there is a lot of rumors of what is coming out. Now, I did a video where I did really well, actually. If you look at what I talked about, and again, this is speculation, folks. Some of which are confirmed, some of which are, we don't know. But I had 9 games that could possibly release in 2025 for Xbox: Avowed, Clockwork Revolution, Doom: The Dark Ages, Fable, Outer Worlds 2, Gears of War E-Day, Oblivion Remake, Call of Duty 2025, and South of Midnight. Now, most of these are already confirmed. South of Midnight, Fable, Outer Worlds 2, Call of Duty, Doom: The Dark Ages, and Avowed. There are 3 that are likely not to release this year. E-Day, Gears of War E-Day being one of them, but you never know. See, I mean, listen,
Did
at
you
the
have
end of
Outer Worlds 2? Did you have Outer Worlds 2 on
yeah.
that list?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's
So the other one is that I'm thinking is going to drop this year, based off of the holiday card that they posted on Twitter, is Everwild.
it's
Everwild looks like it's going to come this year.
it very well could be. I mean, again, it may not release as a full release. Maybe it release as, a game that's, you get into it and you play it, and then they have like a game preview. I mean, it's certainly possible.
Depends on what type of game it is. If it's going to be like a Sea of Thieves type game, then yeah, I could. If it's like an open,
Is it a
like
single
an
player game?
online
Is it a
type of game,
multiplayer game?
I don't know if it's a single player game. It depends on what they end up doing. But the fact that they brought it up and basically said till 2025, that's, I don't think you bring it up if it's not ready. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. That's the beauty of Xbox right now, though. See, they don't have to rush for anything. See,
exactly.
They literally have 30 plus studios, and they may even have some that they haven't announced that they have yet, right? Like there could have been deals made, and they're just waiting for this FTC stuff and new powers that be to take over. They could already own other studios that just haven't reported or working with or about to announce that they're going to be adding. When you have 30 studios, you don't have to rush a game out when it's not right. And that's the beauty of what's going on with Xbox right now, and the quote unquote they have too many games. See,
yep, they do. I mean, they have so many. And at what point do you not want to, like, I know on Game Pass it's not quite the same because they're not looking for the sales, but you still want things to have a little time to themselves, right? Especially when you're going to be releasing big games, right? And like, I think what we're used to in the past is like there'll be a big game and then a bunch of small stuff around it, right? But the problem is that we're getting into the situation where it's like big game, big game, big game, big game, big game, and it's like, okay, well, where's the balance? I mean, every 2 months, I think if you drop 6 big games this year, and then surround it with smaller games, that'll be wild. But we're already up above the 6 number. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a beautiful problem to have, but it also will show you what they feel about next year, right? So like, I think a lot of what's going to release this year is going to be dictated about where they think the games they have ready or will have ready for next year are.
Yeah.
Right. Because if they see themselves saying, okay, well, we were going to have this game ready for next year, but this one's got, like, games that they haven't even announced yet or whatever it is, it's not going to be ready for 2026. So we might have to move that to 2027. So maybe let's take like a couple of these games that we were going to drop this year and push it out to 2026 because we don't need it this year. Right. And I think that's a phenomenal place to be. Right. I think Nintendo famously is one of the people who have a game that's made and they'll just sit on it and just not release it because they want to put it on a certain time, and I think Xbox is kind of getting to a place where they have so many games, like it's just not even a debate. Like they have so many games coming out of first party that they really need to be selective as to when they're going to put what out, right? And as I say that, it's funny because I would have said, if I'm being selective, I would be like, well, okay, well, you got Avowed, you got Fable. Why would I need Outer Worlds 2? You know what I'm saying? Another massive RPG. And then you brought it up, and they have been, I feel like they've been talking about it, and we still are like still getting through the games that were shown to us many years ago.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's the crazy thing, because if you go back to well, let me finish this thought, which is Clockwork Revolution, right? Like that might make it. So you're talking the possibility of having like these 4 massive RPGs coming out in the same year, which is crazy. Like
What if they release Oblivion remake from that they took from the ground up and they added Unreal Engine
That would
5
also
to it?
be crazy.
I
That would
mean,
also be crazy. Depends on the scope of it. If it's more remastered than remake, then that
well,
would be something
supposedly
that's
it's
it'll
made from
be
the ground up. No
yeah.
remaster here. This is like a remake, like
Yeah,
Final
if it's
Fantasy
like a
7.
full remake that's like making everything like now, then yeah, that would be crazy. So that's another one, right? But even like State of Decay 3, we're hearing that it was gonna come out in
They pushed it
2025, and
back.
they're thinking of
Yeah.
pushing that shit back. And it's like, yo, like there's so much. And if you go back to like back in the day, right? Like every year on these shows, there would be new shows. You know what I'm saying? Like you would get new things that are coming out in the future. And like we've had obviously new games talked about every year,
Yep.
but it's like we've still been riding that initial wave of the games that they showed us back in the day, you know, when the Series X was coming out, right? So we have all like Fable and State of Decay, and all those games are from years ago.
Yep.
Those announcements,
And they're finally
right?
coming to fruition. Yep.
It's finally coming now, but it's like every year they're starting a new game with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't like they've been making new games this every year, even though they're not talking about them. So like if you figure we still literally just getting through those games, we still have games coming out in 2026 that we know about.
Yeah.
You know, Perfect Dark, State of Decay, if it gets pushed back, right? Which Perfect Dark was another game people were kind of thinking that maybe would have dropped this year as well. It's like, Jesus, like it's just it's wild, right? So, you know, we already have 2026 games that we know are coming out. We already, you know, believe it or not, we already probably know a 2027 game with Elder Scrolls the new
Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah.
Right? Whatever that new one is, right? So it's like there's so much just from the past that we know. Well, now, but see, this is where things get wild because you know you easily forget that once a studio drops their game, it's on to the next game, right? So it's like, you know, even Hellblade came out. Well, guess what? They were working on multiple projects, right? So whatever they're working on in the next couple of years,
we're gonna get some news on. I mean,
oh Jesus,
bro,
Jesus, bro,
it's just great.